Good to see you guys again, Chris and Helen. Certainly you made some wonderful copy and some wonderful broadcasts over the years with your great horse, Veandercross. Now, let's go back to square one when it all started. Now, Chris, you went along to a sale in Levin, Peter Mackenzie's property. And I remember this very well because I was there, and I think Tony Lee was the auctioneer, if my memory serves me correctly. And you bought this horse, but you didn't just buy one horse, did you?
No, it was a 3-in-1 package, but what a lot of people don't realise is I told my wife I was just going down there and I wouldn't take any money, so I actually went to the bank manager and got the money out of there, and she didn't know I had it.
So, Helen, what was the reaction, though, when he came back? You guys are young married and you've got, you know,
A three-month-old baby.
A 3-month-old baby. So what was your first reaction?
Well, he said he was going, but I said, well, don't come back with a horse. But I realised when his brother-in-law was attached to the hip that he had one, and when he told me the good news that he got 3 for the price of 1, he didn't quite work out why I wasn't quite so excited. All we had was 1 lead rope.
So, Chris, what made you take this particular horse, this package of 3? I mean, there are so many horses in that dispersal sale. What drew you to the connection with Veandercross and the family?
Well, probably unbeknown to a person tonight, I was actually followed Gary Chittick quite a lot, and he was in Masterton at the time, and he had a horse called Super Grey, and I really did like Nijinsky, so I went to that sale specifically to buy a mare from Nijinsky line, and it happened to be Lavender.
Where did you learn the craft of training? I mean, you were a school teacher and engineer in Wanganui. So how did it all come about? Where did you learn the craft?
I actually lived in Oanaiti, which is near Taihape, so I had done all the pony club, but to train a horse, yes, I did. I bought as many books as I could, and Philip Swans were the best ones, so I actually learnt from books.
So what sort of work did you give Veandercross in those early days before it went to the races? As a 2-year-old, and as we saw, it won 3 races, what sort of work would you give Veandercross?
Oh, long conditioning work on the beach, as you saw when I was riding there, hill work, farm work, but mainly the beach, and Philip Swan's book did a little bit of interval training as well.
When Veandercross also obviously made you guys, but it also made Jimmy Walker in a way, didn't it, the jockey?
Yeah, he's a champion guy, yes, and we became great friends, and we still are.
When you decided to have a crack at Australia, was it something you sat down with John Wheeler? I mean, he's a master. We know that he's done that over the years. He's an inductee as well. He's always taken some good horses to Australia. He had no hesitation?
Well, I was reluctant to take one myself. But my father and I had never been to Australia. Well, you know, we've only Kiwis, so we haven't been there. And I really admired John's training. And so I got courage when he won the Hawke's Bay Guineas. Typical Wheels, if you know him. I went to find him, and I found this guy drinking out of a hose. And I said, "Are you Mr. Wheeler?" He says, "Oh, my name's John." And I says, "Look, do you think this horse is good enough?" I say, I think he might be, but I'll give it due consideration. Yes, I'll do it.
Now, a couple of years ago, I mean, we saw some wonderful performances on the screen. Now, a couple of years ago, Steve Davis said to me, he says, "Ask Shane the question. Ask Shane the question on the Caulfield Cup." You know, he covered the world. You've got to ask him the question, but I held back. Now, what do you think of Shane Dye's ride in the Caulfield Cup?
Well, he probably cost us the race, as you could see, but to be fair to him, he hadn't ridden up to that stage, and he was a lazy horse, and would, as anyone had seen, he'd go right from the back. So he was last at about the 800-metre mark, so he gave him a whack round the backside, and he surged to the front, but he did go too wide, but that was that. That's life. We didn't hold it against him, but John was a little bit upset. He thought we should have won.
He had so many wins, but he also had so many seconds too, didn't he?
Yes, he was an amazing horse. He only ever raced in one non-listed or group race in his life, and that was his opening race was... I was green, and there was a race coming up in Wanganui, which was an open 2-year-old, and I wasn't sure what that was. Oh, here we go. So he beat his horse called Sea Crystal. We went on to win his next race was a listed race, so he won that, and every race after that was group.
Absolutely, and you know, he's won so many accolades. The Australian Horse of the Year, that was pretty special, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and to win them both, the one in Sydney and especially the one in Victoria, where we spent a lot of time, was brilliant. And I must say the Australians looked after us very, very well, and we had a lot of very good advice too. You know, like Laurie Laxon was one of them. He probably can't even remember, but I was on a plane and he just said to me, make sure you tell the Australians how good they are and they will look after you.
A great impersonator of Laurie Laxton too, Chris, may I say. And you obviously gave him a wonderful life to you guys. I mean, to go that long. I mean, he lived to nearly 30, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And he gave us lots of opportunities, and it was up to us not to squander them.
Do you think those other animals played a significant part in his life too? He just loved all those.
Yes, he did. Yes, he wasn't a horse that you could put with other animals, but he was besotted with that cow. And we had a problem that she would share the food with him, so she was the fastest cow in Wanganui. So Chris moved her out of the paddock, but he refused to eat if she wasn't in the paddock, so she had to go back. But being a typical male, he didn't mind when he left the paddock, but she couldn't. Yeah.
Great stories, ladies and gentlemen. It's one of those beautiful rags to riches stories. It's all about Veandercross, ladies and gentlemen, the inductees, and Veandercross, and of course, Chris and Helen Turner.